Over the past decade, a new generation of shoemakers across Asia has been quietly redefining what's possible in quality footwear. At this year's Super Trunk Show in Singapore, Jesper Ingvaldson sat down with Alan Lee of CNES and EmilRahmana Putra of Winson Footwear for a panel discussion exploring the craft, the culture, and the future of Asian shoemaking.
Good. Okay, now we're finally ready. Sorry again for being a bit late. Thank you for your patience. I'm Jesper of Shoegazing, one of the organizers. I'm going to host this panel talk about Asian quality shoes. And with me I have Alan Lee of CNES here in Singapore and Vietnam, so to speak. And we have EmilRahmana Putra of Winson and Midas in Indonesia.
Indonesia, yeah.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to sort of ask, because the development of making quality shoes has really boomed in Asia the past 10, 15 years or so. How would you sort of describe what has happened, Alan?
So I think like consumerism in Asia has generally seen a huge demand, especially after COVID. And I think for a long time, Asia is tied with a very strong manufacturing base. For many things, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think now we can really see, as a whole, this strong kind of like a surge in footwear manufacturing, especially in the quality segment. So across Southeast Asia, there are many small little buds booming around. So Indonesia, there's one. In Vietnam, obviously, and then it kind of like spread across Asia.
Yeah. What's your thought, Emil?
Yeah, I think I was really busy this past 3 years working on my Sula, so I don't really realize what happened outside.
Yeah.
And then, but I think after COVID, a lot of people stay at home, and then people just trying to explore something new, and they, a lot of new brand, new shoemaker from Asia, and then also in Indonesia, out of sudden, my friend becoming a bootmaker also.
Yeah, exactly. You see it there. You even have friends starting to make shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
So I think this kind of like whole scenario, right? It's quite similar in Indonesia, especially in Bandung.
Yeah.
And then it's also happening in Vietnam as well. So from the main kind of like the factory, they have workers living, and then they kind of create their own brand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you see it in China as well, and I mean Japan is of course Asia, but they've sort of been a bit more developed earlier in many ways in this part of the shoe industry. But yeah. So CNES is sort of one of the largest factories making welted footwear and shoes in Vietnam. And it's a country known for shoemaking in general, so to speak. But perhaps not always this type of shoes. You mentioned a bit about it, but how would you describe it there now?
So I think in terms of the world as a whole, I think China still dominates the scene in terms of footwear production across all categories. I believe, and I think based on the stats, Vietnam is a close second. It's a home base for many sneaker brands. So a lot of the sneakers are produced in Vietnam, like even for the major sportswear brand. On top of that, I think if we go back like 30 years, there was a group of people, pioneers who ventured into Japan, studied shoemaking in Japan, and brought that technique and experience back to Vietnam. Yeah, exactly. I think from there it kind of like groomed like the two big factories that we know based on the history, and then from there like we kind of like grow the whole welted footwear scene in Vietnam. Yeah. And I think now as we for the past 5 years or so, it has become really vibrant now. You see brands big and small coming up, doing very different interesting things.
Yeah, because that's the interesting thing. It's not only small ones, but also bigger ones, new ones that come up.
Yes, but by and large, I think Vietnam is still known and renowned for making like footwear as a whole. Yeah, so like sports shoes, sneakers, comfort shoes, they are still ranked like a very close second. Second to China.
And what's your experience? Do you see similar development in other Asian countries like Laos or Bangladesh?
So within Southeast Asia, we do see some other smaller factories establishing in like Laos. There used to be factories in Malaysia. Indonesia, of course, is another huge base for that also. But we do see some small little bits coming up from the other countries. But in terms of like major footwear production, I think within Southeast Asia, Vietnam and Indonesia still stands as a very close competitor to China.
And I mean, Indonesia, you of course have, I mean, I think Eko has a lot of factories in Indonesia, so you also make a lot of regular footwear and has a tradition there. But now in the past 5 years, maybe a bit more, but you've seen a really big boom of handmade, rugged workwear boots, heritage boots, especially. That's been also you have classic footwear with like Jalan Sriwijaya and Winson, your brand, but you also have Midas, which is rugged footwear boots. So your experience there, you mentioned that you've been sort of in a chamber and not really followed it, but how, especially like in Bandung where you're based, how have you experienced these past years with the boom?
Yeah, actually when I look at Instagram, there is a lot of new brand, but mostly work boot style. And then Winson actually also make a work boot style at first. And then I feel bored and I think I need more challenge. That's why I start looking at your blog. That's why where I find traditional dress shoemaking. And then I learned a lot from your blog on YouTube. And then I was busy trying to improve the detail construction because I only learned from internet. So it's like I'm living in my own world. But when I go outside, oh my God, this make new brand already. So that's why I'm trying to improve the sulas for Winson and Midas so I can be different with them.
But you are sort of a community of footwear makers in Bandung?
Yeah.
That you meet, exactly.
Yes, with almost all of them.
Yeah. That's cool. And what's your experience with other makers of fine dress shoes in Indonesia? How do you experience that?
I think the other brand are mostly mass production. So I don't really have friend in making traditional shoes.
They make their boots.
Yeah, they make only boots. That's why, as I said before, it's like I'm living my own world.
Yes, I understand. So there's a lot of talk about how lower priced Asian shoes, because of the lower living costs in Asia, is becoming sort of a serious competitor to shoes and boots made in Europe and the US. How do you see this, Alan?
So I think in the West, it's traditionally known for making shoes. If you go back decades past, especially in America a long time ago, and in certain parts of Europe. So, but I think with the recent past few 30 years or so, we can see a huge change in, or like the emergence of shoe making giants across Asia, not just in Southeast Asia or in Vietnam or even Indonesia per se, but across Asia as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. India, big as well now.
So I think in Asia, I would like to believe that we have this sense of the spirit of progress and the spirit of improvement, or in Japanese, continuous innovation. I think in Japanese, they have this term that's called Kaizen. And I believe this spirit is quite common if you look at the folks in Asia. We will tend to innovate. We will tend to think and improve, like what's the best way that we can deliver a better product, a better experience for our customers. I think that is primarily or fundamentally the main reason we see this emergence of like many factories, workshops and studios across Asia. And given the difference in like the lifestyle and the consumer, we are giving like the West a lot of bang for the value, like in terms of the product.
And where do you see this development of quality shoemaking in Asia go the coming decade or so, Emil?
Yeah, I think will be more new brand with high quality. I think the quality can compete with European, but the most important thing is I'm afraid that they can't keep the consistency.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The
keep the level that is consistently high.
Consistency. Yeah. That's what I'm afraid, because sometimes people just doing shoemaking as a hobby, and then when they tired, they just stop. It happens with some Indonesian.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, even if you have a sort of, like for example, a craze with workwear boots in Indonesia now, maybe if not all of them are there in a decade, hopefully a bunch of them are and are really established and well-working companies at that point. Yeah. Okay, cool. Do we have any questions to Emil and Alan about Asian sports shoes? Yeah.
So my question maybe for Alan is, I see that you also sell accessories, not just shoes, but leather belts, bags, and all that. Is doing more accessories one possible way to expand the business, or you're looking primarily at shoes? And is there enough demand in Singapore or in Southeast Asia to see a good business just out of shoes?
So at the moment, I think in terms of like small leather goods and accessories, it constitute, I would say, about 20% of our overall margin, overall sales. It's not something that we deliberately focus on, but it's an assortment of products that we add on to our customers because the demand is there. Yeah, the demand calls for it. But if you look at us as a brand and as a manufacturer, our main focus is still shoes. So we are still very focused on delivering a good product relative to the price. Yeah. So there's always this caveat that we try to get the best out of it based on that particular budget range. And that is something like for CNES Shoemaker, we are committed to delivering this promise.
I just had a quick question for both of them. The United States was a market for many of the shoes that were being produced here, the higher end shoes. And now with the tariff situation in the United States, making it a little less easy to get the shoes in at good prices, and that 800 de minimis change, has that forced you to shift to other markets, particularly as there are new trade deals being opened up between Europe and the UK and other countries?
Yeah, so I think when the tariffs were first announced, almost immediately there was a downshift in like purchasing. Yeah, so the Americans, I mean, they became very cautious, and then there were many questions and hesitations about buying, about potential delays, tariffs, the exact percentage, things like that. So we do see a decrease in the demand from America. But that being said, like I think for us, outside of Asia, like Southeast Asia and Japan, I think the American market is still our largest overseas market by far. Yeah, so we are still committed to finding ways to mitigate this and then to ensure that our shoes are being sold in America. Yeah.
So explain.
He's asking, like, now because of the American taxes, right? Yeah, so now is it very difficult for you to sell shoes in the US?
In the US?
Yeah, because of all the Trump, you have a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
Has it affected you, the tariffs?
Not really, because we only produce small quantity, so we don't really take a lot of orders from customer. But for my second brand is Midas, we produce work boot style. Most of customers still from the US.
But they still order?
Still order, yes.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to see now with the EU. We have a new free trade agreement with Indonesia. We have one with India. There seems to be, like you say, new markets sort of opening up, and we'll see where that goes in the future, so to speak. Even if US is huge and important now, might change due to this if it continues, or people just swallow the new cost. And yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
So do you and your respective countries see an increase in customers wanting to buy made in Indonesia or made in Vietnam products? Because in Asia it's always been buy from the West because that's how it's always been. Do you now see customers specifically request for made in their own countries in Asia?
I think it's our customers don't really specifically request for like a made in Vietnam or Indonesia stamp per se. But I think this is really a long-standing block that everyone is trying to punch through. Traditionally, we all have this impression like made in the West is always better. It's always more prestigious. The brands have this protection of kind of like leveraging on their heritage. to kind of deliver this better product. So everyone assumes that like in the West it's always better. But I think with the passage of time and with new brands coming up, doing different things, innovation, things like that, I think this block or this perceived block is slowly crumbling. And I think if you look forward into the next future, the next decades or so, I think there'll definitely be a change in the consumer perception in terms of how they view shoes made in, for example, India, Vietnam, or even Indonesia.
Yeah, I think cars is an interesting industry where you definitely see, especially like in China and other Asian countries, where everyone should buy the luxuries German cars or big American or whatever. And now they want Chinese cars, and they are completely taking over. And I'm sure we're gonna see sort of similar situation with shoes as well. When you produce good products and it's your own country that does it, I would be really intrigued to get that. I mean, I found a pair of vintage boots from a Swedish manufacturer back from the 1940s when I was in Japan, and I was like, whoa, because we haven't made proper shoes and boots in Sweden for many decades. So that felt special to me, and you are sort of, here it's growing, so I can definitely see that happening. Okay, Alan Lee of CNES and EmilRahmana Putra of Winson and Midas, thank you for being part of this talk. And thank you all for being